Hello there, I'm Nigel Mill, and this is another one of my extremely harsh reviews. Come into video format. My thoughts go inside yours. Anyways, uh, this is Frostpunk 2 review from 11-bit Studios. Uh, by the time I make this review, I would have already completed the entire series. I mean, the main campaign and a whole lot of Utopia runs. I have completed them, but in my YouTube videos, I only have chapter 3 released so far. Return to Winterhome, I think it was. So now that I have finished my playthrough of Frostpunk 2, now I am going to make a video review of it, even though that the game is months old. Well, I just want to do it because I already have the notes. I already written all my thoughts, and it would be a humongous waste to not show my opinions or share my opinions with all of you. Etiquette rules for this review for you, dear viewer, gentle sir or madam, ma'am. So, rules. This is my opinion. You can have your opinion. You, me could disagree on things and we still can get along just fine. But don't go to the extreme, or don't be a complete scum of a human being and start attacking me over my opinions, or start attacking others with other opinions. You're allowed to have your opinions, I'm allowed to have my opinions. That's it. If you really don't, like my opinions, you can debate about it, or you can debate about it with others if you choose to, but don't attack people. Those are the rules of this review. Basically, don't be an asshole. Those are the rules for you. And with that out of the way, I expect all of you to behave, even though that I don't have that much popularity in my review videos. It is still a thing that I future-proof, right? Depending if this video gets like 10,000 views in some way, but that's why I say these rules now at the beginning of everything, because you can get haters, you can get a suck-cuck people that will companies to the unimaginable degree and protect these companies with unrivaled fervor, and don't have self-respect for themselves and don't have respect for other people. That's why I tell these rules and warnings to you in video format, so that nobody can complain when I eventually ban them from being assholes. So, now that the rules are out of the way, welcome to Frostpunk 2 review, Nigel Mill review. A little background. Like I said in my Frostpunk 2 playthroughs, I have played through the first one. So, I am going to compare the first one to this one. And here's how I make my reviews. The scores that I put are from a number, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10, right? The closer the number is to 0, the more the game sucks. The closer the number is to 10, the game is a masterpiece. So that's how I grade my video games in in my YouTube channel. So here are the categories in which I summarize the good points of the game with the bad points of the game, and somewhere in the middle and all that stuff. So this is how I categorize my review videos. I first talk about the good things that the game has done in my opinion. Then there is another segment called the bad, which is the bad things that the game has done in my opinion as a video game, obviously. And then after the bad is the which is the weird points that I found in the game, but they don't. The part does not subtract or add points in my review videos. It's just a very weird or interesting quirk that I found in the game. And then the final segment of my review videos is the 10 mark. If the game was not a 10 out of 10 in my opinion, or if the game was a 10 out of 10 in my opinion, I list some of the things that they could have done better to improve and eventually take me to a 10 out of 10 or a beyond 10 out of 10, right? So let's see. Yep, those are the categories, and at the ending of the 10 mark, I give you my score out of the game. Again, the numbers are from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10. So, without further ado, keep in mind also the rules that I've set for you at the beginning of this video. Keep that in mind, and let's proceed with the review. I hope this will be a faster video because I don't want to edit the snippets like I did in Resident Evil 4 Remake. I don't want to spend days editing. Anyways, let's start. This is the good segment. And keep in mind, the more plus symbols or the more minus symbols mean how much this particular thing impacted me in my decision of grading this game. So let's start with the first plus. Menu music is pretty good. Not amazing like the first game, but good nonetheless. Next, Utopia mode, endless mode. This is the same mode that you get in Frostpunk 1, where you get, instead of a campaign, you get to build your city and have an unlimited amount of time, developing your city. The difference is, in this Frostpunk 2, you have goals. There are 3 goals in a Utopia, I think, and that is increasing your population to a certain amount, increasing your resources to a certain amount, or have a certain amount of settlements with a certain amount of people residing in them. Those are the 3 goals that you can choose for yourself, or you can randomize it if you like, and you start your Utopia builder. After you complete those goals, you can keep playing if you want. It's endless. So there you go. That's Utopia mode. I really like it. Next, scouting the Frostlands is the equivalent of scouting like in the first game. You can send your scouts to look for resources or people. If you are lucky, you can find vast amounts of resources and occasionally find a buildable outpost that offers infinite resources of one kind, or you can also possibly find a settlement you need to micromanage just like your city, but in a smaller capacity. You better get comfortable exploring the Frostlands because it's the only place you'll find the very important cores. And I will speak on cores or steam cores later on. Next, the Book of Laws, now called Council, has been very much expanded, and it also integrates well with different factions in your city. When establishing, changing, or preventing laws, every faction in the city will have a say in it. Depending on which faction is present, they'll be either with you or against you during the vote. It is your decision if you want to make promises to specific factions in order to pass a law, or reject it. If you ever achieve to pass every rules law up to Captain's authority, it will be the equivalent of Frostpunk's 1's order/faith control, meaning that in Frostpunk 2 you will gain unlimited trust, and at this point passing or rejecting laws will depend completely on you, the captain, and the factions will have zero say in it because they will be your puppets at that point. Huh. Kinda like real life. But this captain's authority law also has a major downside, which I will explain later. And this is the first major plus. Idea 3, e.g. Detect 3 tree from Frostpunk, is pretty vast and much more complicated. On top of having many ideas to research, now you need to decide which version of the idea you need to research from the different factions in your city that give you their options in how their idea needs to be executed. This sequel also introduces radical ideas, which in gameplay standards are buildings or laws you can research just like the normal ones, but radical ideas are much more dangerous to use. Examples of radical ideas are you can research drug manufacturers, guard immunities, pleasure commons, which is prostitutions, human experimentation, public executions, etc., etc., etc. These radical ideas, while they have major benefits to the city, it might be equally bad for the city because they usually increase the rate of deaths, disease, crime, or squalor. But if you manage your city right, radical ideas are very useful, if you can stomach the repercussions. Next plus. You still have to decide on some really gut-wrenching decisions. You will often need to decide between one or two extremes to satisfy your people or in order for them to survive. An example of this in my gameplay was when my city was when two of my factions in my gameplay were attacking me in a civil war and I had to fight them back, I would have the decisions as story decisions to choose between. Do I send my guards to destroy them by any means possible? Or do I send them with the intent of saving as many innocent lives as possible, but it increases my cost of guards every time I try to fight these factions. If you do it quick and tough, innocents are going to die, and you will get a message saying that, hey, because of you, innocents have died. Or if you go to the option B, which is be as careful as possible not to kill any innocent lives, then you better have a lot of guards in your city, or else the fight is not going to go your way. So these are the gut-wrenching decisions that you need to choose from. Another one is when you sign the law of productive outsiders, let's say, it means that only outsiders that are productive will be able to enter the city, and you get a message immediately that says, oh no, this mother has been separated from her child that is out in the Frostlands, and because the child can't work, you know, that means they either stay in the Frostlands and, you know, de prete nombre Padre Espíritu Santo guide those children, or you can loosen the law a little bit to allow families to reunite from the Frostlands, but that comes at a cost of debilitating one of your buildings or one of your laws. Gut-wrenching decisions. The next plus is there are 6 cornerstones that you can develop or embrace. They are adaptation, progress, equality, merit, tradition, and reason. Each one of these require different ideas and laws to either increase or decrease its hold on the city. Developing a cornerstone that certain factions agree with will increase their relation. Likewise, if it's a cornerstone they disagree with, which happened to me in my campaign playthrough, they'll worsen relationships. Once one of the cornerstones have been fully fulfilled, you will have a choice to embrace the specified cornerstone you want. Embracing it... Let me just... There you go. I did a typo. I did a oopsie. Embracing it will reward you with very powerful abilities that you can use. But there's 2 downsides. The first downside is if you have any laws that contradict your embraced cornerstone, example, embracing equality but have merit laws present, it will add tensions to the city as long as that contradicting law is still in effect. This, of course, can be fixed by having tension-reducing buildings or hubs. The second downside is more restrictive. Once you have embraced a certain cornerstone, let's say for example tradition, you can't research any ideas that are not tradition or neutral based ideas. You can no longer research experimental treatments, for example. Next is when a faction's fervor maxes out, your city goes into an interactive civil war. How crazy is that? It's not like the usual single message that pops up and you can move on with your gameplay like it's a small inconvenience. No. It's an actual civil war that you need to actively fight for. At that point, I hope you have recruited a bunch of guards because you're gonna need them. When a faction goes to war against you, the entire UI changes to black because of the high tension, and instead of playing in the daytime, it changes to night, and the streets glow red with fire and smoke from the war. If you are lucky or unlucky, enough to experience this, you have multiple choices available to you. You can either let them win the war, try to negotiate to improve relations, which will be hard as fuck, believe me. That will be insanely hard to do. Or try to fight them head on and either kill them all or detain them all in prison. While you're in the war, casualties are going to occur. Both innocents and enemies are going to suffer. Of course, the game offers you choices in how you conduct this war too. Are you going to save as many innocents as possible but greatly increase your guard's time and cost? Or are you going to make sure that this war ends as fast as possible by any means necessary? During a civil war, you will be able to decide on these choices, and while the war is ongoing, districts are going to be damaged too, decreasing their production and effectiveness depending on how bad the war is. Once the enemies are killed or captured, you have a final choice to make before completely crushing the faction, and they are exile them to a colony or to the Frostlands, which means they die. Release them but make them pledge their complete loyalty to you as personal guards, or depending on what kind of prison you have, you can rehabilitate them, punishment, let them stay locked, etc, etc, etc. Oh, and by the way, the other part of the game, you know, the resource settlement, city management, and dealing with the cold and the whiteouts. Yep, that still happens while the war is ongoing, which in my opinion is damn brutal. Devs, maybe don't allow drastic temperature changes in a war while a war is going on. If players find themselves in a civil war and the whiteout hits, they're fucked. It is extremely hard to manage your civil war and your, you know, normal city development, settlement development game. You have to fight on two sides. Next, your population is now represented by different factions that inhabit your settlement. In Frostpunk, these factions were outside your city, but now they are more involved and crucial aspect of your population, since you need to decide which faction hold more power or sway in order to survive as a group. Call in favors or get more favor from them, and they'll either be loyal and support you as a leader, or do the complete opposite, and when researching ideas, they all will have opinions on the matter. The last point, the last good thing that I put in my notes about the game is game has a very helpful and informative tip/tutorial menu. That was extremely helpful, especially for someone like me who expected more of expected more of Frostpunk 1 than, well, all the new stuff that is in Frostpunk 2. You can see me struggling a lot in the prologues of my playthrough and the chapter 1 of my playthrough. I expected more Frostpunk 1, but that's not what I got. Anyways, all of that concludes the good. Squeeze me. All of that concludes the good that I said about the game. Now, I'm off to the bad things that, in my opinion, made the game, in my opinion, worse, or it didn't make sense, or it was just unsavory, let's say. So let's start, and notice that I in the good, I didn't have a critical success is because nothing in this Frostpunk 2 game made it stand out to the maximum degree, aside from the council and the idea trees are possibly the best things out of this game, but they're not to a wow degree. You know what I mean? That I will put front and center and raise my score by a whole bunch of badungas. You know what I mean? But in the bad section, I am going to start with one critical failure that the game did, in my opinion. And that is, this is a long one, the beloved small city builder that was in Frostpunk 1 has turned into a multiple settlement builder in Frostpunk 2. There is no attachment for the individual settlers anymore because in Frostpunk 2 they turn into thousands in number instead of a few hundred, which with each and every one having a bio, name, description, or age. You know, when what I mean by that is in Frostpunk 1, you can name your people, your settlers, by yourself. You can click on them and rename them however you want. But in Frostpunk 2, it's all automatic. Which, it makes more sense, yes, but you lose that, and especially since it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people in your city instead of a few hundred, like I said, it loses that intimacy of a single settler, and you want him or her to survive during the entirety of your campaign because you renamed them, and you're keeping an eye on them, and hopefully your favorite character NPC doesn't die. But in this game, none of that. Let's continue. The scope of the game turned so big that developers forgot that we loved the small management of the first game. Instead of building around the generator and cramming in those buildings in a certain amount of space, that is not the case anymore in Frostpunk 2, since they removed that small city builder, in favor for a much grander scope of a multiple settlement builder. Instead of putting down buildings manually as the player, you now put hexagonal areas outside your main city and let your workers automatically build around the area. You have no control over what kind of buildings they put inside that settlement because it's all automatic. It feels like the city management of the first game has been automatized and lessened in this one. Frostpunk 2 feels like it has forsaken the fun mechanics and building of the first game, but expanded outside of it to make it feel like a completely different game for the wrong reasons. And I didn't edit this to make it more specific, but I understand now what I wrote. By what I mean is, in Frostpunk 1, when you wanted to make a house, that house was put in a rectangular shape around the generator. You plop it down. But if you wanted to build a research station, that is its own rectangle, that you can build. It doesn't go inside the house district like in Frostpunk 2. No, it's a separate block essentially in the city. And in Frostpunk 1, you kept going. Instead of food districts like in Frostpunk 2, you had houses, uh, kitchen uh, stations. You got hunter HQs, and I'm forgetting another food place. Hot houses. Did I say that before? Whatever. You know, you get an assortment of things, but they're their own pieces of buildings. But in Frostpunk 2, when you make a food district, it's automatic. You know, what is in there, everything is in there. You know, the hot houses, the hunter huts, kitchens, or whatever the hell, but you don't manually put them down like you could in the first game, because, like I said, it's automatic. So you lose that. If you come from Frostpunk 1, you lose that small city builder aspect of the game, because Frostpunk 2 is, well, much grander in scheme. And by being much grander, in my opinion, I think that's a critical failure, because they just the best thing about the city builder aspect of Frostpunk 1, which is the city building aspect of Frostpunk 1, they completely removed it in the settlement builder of Frostpunk 2. That really let me down. That really disappointed me. Like, I know that in Frostpunk 2 you can add you know, those specific things that are in Frostpunk 1, like bio-waste hothouses, or deep mining drills inside your food districts, but it's not the same. It's, you know, to see what you made, you have to click on the food district, then highlight the building that you put inside there, the modular building that you put inside there, by either, you know, making a food district or expanding the food district, and then you have to click the monocular button, which zooms in, and then you get to see a shot of the building that you built, and then the people going around it or inside of it or out of it. That is pretty cool, but it just doesn't feel the same. You know, I expected more finesse and development from the you know, city builder of Frostpunk 1, but when I got into the sequel, I find myself lacking that intimate individual city, slow burning city builder aspect of the game. That's what I mean by the critical failure. That's the only critical failure that I found, and it's pure opinion based, right? As I said in the beginning of the video, this is pure opinion based. You can disagree with me, you can agree with me, you can have a different opinion. We're all good. I allow you to have different opinions as much as you should allow me to have different opinions. We all get along together. We don't have to fight, you know? So, anyways, let's go with the other minuses. Can't build cores or steam cores anymore like in the first game. Instead, they are only found in the Frostlands. There may be a gameplay balancing reason, but it still feels like removed content. You can also find some steam cores in some resource nodes in some settlements, like in Winterhome in the campaign, let's say, for example. But in Frostpunk 1, you had a factory that you can build that makes steam cores for your city. It's a very advanced blueprint that you need to research and invest on. But when you do it, you would have essentially won the game, because you can keep creating and keep creating and keep creating more automatons and more automatons and more automatons, more automatons, more automatons, until you're at a point in the game where you won. You know, you won automatically. And in this game, there is no unlimited resources of steam cores. So, and if you go upgrade your generator to the maximum degree, you will have absolutely no steam cores for anything else. So, I think I talk about it in one of my minus points too, but yeah, I think so. So, let's keep going through the minuses. Music is not as good as it was in the first game. The first Frostpunk had some amazingly iconic soundtrack. Just listen to A New Home scenario when the Great Frost hits. The title of the music is The City Must Survive. Listen to it. The music pumps up to 11 and is more memorable and tension-filled moment because while the storm gets way too cold, everyone must endure with the resources they have left and the decisions that you've made. At that crucial story point, all your resources will be strained to an extreme amount, your people are in constant danger of dying, all your workers are not working and trying to survive, all your buildings are non-functional, and if it wasn't crazy enough, a father comes fucking fighting through the storm in order to rescue his daughter and arrive safe and sound. A true miracle that even survived through the storm, and the music encapsulates that moment tremendously in Frostpunk 1. It just doesn't have the same amazing high tension filled soundtrack at crucial points in the story. It, you know, as a background music, you know, like background sound, it's okay, you know, it's alright, you know, the music is not terrible, it's just a little thing that you get to experience while your attention is, you know, fighting factions. But no music, even in the campaign or the Utopia Builder, no music has ever been amazing like in the first game when you hit that great storm in the campaign. Nothing. When a whiteout in Frostpunk 2 hits your city, the music does change, but it's nothing epic. That's what I mean by it. Next minus. When you are in a pretty sizable city, saving the game takes about a minute or more, and it freezes the game for that duration. Next minus. When passing the captain's law of authority law, every vote that you participate in will count as a guided vote. This will dramatically decrease factions' favorability and trust towards the player, meaning they will be hostile to you if you participate in any voting. I find it a whole lot easier to just not pass the captain's authority law, because your votes won't count as guided votes unless you manually enable it. And by doing so, factions won't hate you, or when a law is presented by the council, just don't ever participate in it at all in order to avoid losing trust from factions. Next is hubs are very underwhelming in my opinion. Note, I'm not talking about buildings, I'm talking about only hubs. They offer very little bonuses to the gameplay, except for the communication and fighting arena hubs and the stockpile hubs, but those are unlocked by default. You know, you don't need to research them. I think I'm talking about here like very specific things, like 10% less workforce if 3 hexagonal spaces are together or close by, or material decrease when 3 things are nearby. Those are the hubs I'm talking about. Yes, you can put many hubs down, but at the cost of a lot of your workforce. And while this may not be a problem with high population, it is a problem with lower ones. Hubs, I imagine, are one of the last things players will ever research. Next, the passage of time is much, much, much faster. Instead of an in-game hour passing in, let's say, for example, a minute in real time, a day passes in Frostpunk 2 instead, further making evident that instead of the intimate, slow city builder of Frostpunk 1, we get a very fast-forwarded, to-the-point automatic multiple settlement build. Next, the final 3rd generator upgrade is definitely not worth it in my opinion. The problem is that it costs an astounding 40 cores to construct for a meager efficiency and district boost. This is way too much. It is much better to construct 40 advanced stations instead. It would be much more reasonable if it only required 15 cores to make. Still expensive, but I think it reflects well if you plan to construct it. This upgrade perhaps makes more sense in the campaign, but not in Utopia mode, you know. By campaign I mean in Winterhome, where you get 3 6 steam core nodes in the city, but that's not enough. That doesn't equal to 40, so you need to go to the Frostlands and save those steam cores somehow to get 40 for that generator upgrade. Next, a major minus, the first major minus. Since the game takes place in the year 1916 instead of 1886, technology has advanced pretty far up to the point that when you start a new scenario or utopia, let's say, your city will already be highly advanced, already built with houses, greenhouses, upgraded generators, steam trains, already built automatons, and much more. This game doesn't let you start your city from scratch. In most cases, example of a non-built city would be in the prologue. Next, every single fucking decision that you make will have someone bitching and moaning about it. with anything you do. Seriously, with anything that ever comes in your mind, if you want to do something, you will get a group of people going against you, always, forever. Pass an equal pay law, privileged assholes lays around and never work. Pass a marriage-based pay law, lower paid workers lash out. Pass a privatized alcohol law, workers complain it's too expensive. Pass a city-run alcohol law, people complain there's no variety and competition. I mean, fuck people. I heard of Karens and wokevists complain and bitch less than you guys. Why not offer players a good balanced medium by default when choosing these laws? But no, the only choice you've got is to, let's say, for example, pass an equal pay law, wait until people complain about it, and you'll get a chance to lighten or loosen the law by giving people performance pay while keeping equal pay law active. It'll just mean that the equal pay law will be less effective at doing what it does gameplay-wise. This was also a problem in with the first game. Do you people know, if you haven't noticed, there's a fucking blizzard on top of us, and they still have the gall to complain about everything possible? That was one of the most frustrating moments in my gameplay. Next, there needs to be an option to postpone events decisions once you click on them, giving the player some time before they could gather whatever resource they need for it. Sometimes, a message will pop up because you clicked on it and you were curious about what it is, only to find out that you have to decide right now at this very moment, even though that you're like 10 prefabs away from the requirement of what you want to do. You should be able to say, hold on a moment, let me pass a day, there you go, now I have my prefabs, go back to the, the message pop-up and say, yes, I will resolve it this way, because now I have the prefabs. So, in my opinion, the square yellow notifications, let the time pass. Let them pass. Of course, you won't know what they will ask for anyways, but sometimes a little bit of time is all that it takes to get the resources that you need to resolve a certain matter in a certain way. So my recommendation is, there's always the option to save scum, but, give the players a choice to postpone it. Because not everybody likes to save scum because it slows down gameplay. And as I said, with larger settlements, loading or saving the game takes a while. So, there's that. Next minus point. Since the passage of time is much faster, there is no day and night cycle, except when there is a whiteout or a civil war ongoing. Means you won't get to personally see which buildings are working or which buildings are unavailable during the day/night. In Frostpunk 1, you actually see your people going to their homes at night, unless they are on emergency shifts or unless they are going to hunt for animals outside of your city. So, and during the day, you will see a whole lot of people going to their buildings and factories and whatnots. In this game, no, their day and night doesn't exist. In this game, that cycle does not exist. So that's what I mean. Next is the gameplay UI is definitely much more different and looks worse, in my opinion. Next, there is no ice crackling sound effects when clicking anywhere like in the first game. I mean, there is some ice crackling sound effects, but what I mean is, In the first game, anywhere you clicked, I don't know if my mic picked up on that, but you know, the Frostpunk 1, when you click anywhere, you will get a very satisfying ice crackling effect that is most of the time missing in this game. Now, okay, that was the last minus. Damn, I must look like a fool if my microphone did not pick up the ice crackling sound effects that came out of my mouth, but I will add sound effects on my own in the editing software to not look like a complete fool. Anyways, that was the bad. That finished. Now I am going with the category, which, if you remember, are the weird or interesting points that I found about the game. Not really, they don't modify the score whatsoever. I just thought that it was pretty interesting to know. The first one is, starting the game and going through the tutorial on the first time really confused me, because coming from Frostpunk 1, I was expecting a similar or familiar pattern from the previous game, but unfortunately the sequel is much more different than before, and it played tricks on my head. I was expecting more Frostpunk 1 mechanics, and instead ended up feeling like I'm playing a completely new IP. That was also one of the things that I talked about previously in either the good or the bad section. I don't remember which. This shadow right here on the green screen, one of my lights stopped functioning, and now I have to search for another replacement. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. Next, from all the chapters that I've played, Chapter 5 was the shortest one by far. Although it may be because at that point, your city economy is already in a good spot and it allowed me to finish it quicker. Could be. Next, while you can't personally and manually place and organize buildings, the game does still give you buildings to put in your district. It's just automatically placed and organized for you, but you still get to choose these said buildings like hospitals, sawmills, prisons, watchtowers, etc., etc. The steward and captain difficulties are unforgivingly brutal to complete. You better get those video guides on how to complete them, because they're just as hard as the first game. That's one of the things that I really did not like about the first game either, is that I had to be signing the exact same laws, the exact same building technology, the exact same building structure, the exact same everything in order to survive hard mode or extreme mode in Frostpunk 1. And it's the same here. You know, in these difficulties, it doesn't allow you to do whatever you want in a certain way, because there are laws, there are idea trees that are absolutely essential in order for you to do first, because if you don't, you're gonna have quick disease, you're gonna have quick squalor, your followers are gonna die, your trust will fall extremely quickly because you didn't do the most efficient things possible. You know, you need, in hard mode, steward mode, or captain mode, you need to be on top of everything and squashing every single complications before they start. And that is a micro managing nightmare. I know I've been through it. It is insane. Frostpunk games make it unbelievably hard. You need to follow a guide because you can't just do whatever the hell you want to do. No, in those difficulties, no. No, you will fail. Next is you cannot upgrade generators from settlements, meaning you can't customize what heat source the generator uses. Example, if you have steam source in the settlement, but if you have an oil district, it will use oil instead of an unlimited steam deposit. Why? Because only the generator's level 2 upgrade can manually set which source is chosen first. And I did an edit right here. There is a weird UI feature that Steam is used first, then anything else, but the trade menu doesn't really update that information until you accept the trade changes and look at how much steam your city is using. It's a very weird and very inconvenient way to measure and balance your heat sources when combined with steam. When steam is made into a heat resource in one of your settlements, your whole fucking heat economy UI gets fucked. Like, you have to go through loops and holes and figure out the trade menu, accept it, close it, open it again, open and close it, open and close it, adjust it, open and close it in order to get the fuel resource that you require from oil or coal working with steam. It's very weird. It's extremely weird. Weirdly enough, the UI seems to bug out and give you fake information during gameplay and when loading a save file. Edit. I've noticed in later updates this was mitigated. I still notice a little bit of fake information when I load, especially in long playthroughs, but they get fixed, between a second or two of the city running. So they fixed it somewhat. Next, needs a bigger UI text scale and UI icon scale option. I also did an edit here. Game update offered bigger options. Good on you. Next, which I also have an edit here. The game needs to be able to zoom out further than what it can when looking at the Frostlands map. Edit. Game update added this. I just put the notes here because I want to know what I experienced before it was updated. So when you zoomed out in the Frostlands, that was pitiful. Like, you saw like 4 areas even with the zoom out, and now with the updated zoom out, now you can see like 20 areas at the same time in the Frostlands. So they improved on that. Next, Utopia mode. The first time you try to beat it without endless mode enabled, in my opinion, is harder than before because you don't get nearly enough infinite resource nodes to battle the storms for long playthroughs. Strangely enough, you do get a bunch of Frostland nodes that offer infinite resources, but to be fair, Utopia mode offers objectives you need to accomplish fast before a long storm fucks you up. But just so you know, there is infinite resources in endless mode, which you can unlock after beating Utopia mode and unlocking the true ending by surviving about 2,000 weeks or so. Next. An hour is passed. Next. Strangely enough, you need to add a certain amount of segments to build something. For example, to Frostbreak, it is mandatory to select 8 hexagonal areas unless there is no more space. Nothing more, nothing less in order to complete one Frostbreak order. Another example is that you need to select 6 spaces to build a housing district. You can't increase or decrease that amount unless you build another set of segments with another set of house districts or expand the districts once or twice. And sometimes, I did not put it here, but sometimes when you're trying to expand, if it's very cramped spacing, even if your districts do have 3 segments that you can expand to, the game says, no, it's not connected, so you can't do it. But then sometimes you can put 2 hexagonal spaces at the bottom of the district, but then put 1 at the top of the district, separating them and making it possible to expand like that. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's really weird. And the last... Apparently there's mod support? What? If people can add mechanics, stories, or campaigns? Hell fuck yeah. That would be amazing if it really happened, but the game has been out for a couple of months, and I saw the mod store, the mod workshop, and it's very underwhelming. Like, there's cool mods that add a Steam Core factory, but I think modding in Frostpunk 2 is so hard that these mod authors don't update their mods quickly enough, because I am guessing the tools that they have are not easy to operate with, and then the mod just becomes obsolete and cannot work. And there are some mods that change the bonuses for laws or buildings, but as far as I've seen, nothing astronomically huge like campaigns or game additional, game mechanics. It's the mods that I saw are usually changing something that already exists in the game. Like, instead of a factory that makes prefabs, it changes to a factory that makes Steam cores, for example, or an equal pay law. Instead of decreasing your heat stamp acquisition by, let's say, 5%, it decreases it even more by 20% or something like that. Mods, even if the game has been out for only a couple of months, there's nothing really substantial in the mod workshop. There's only like 15 mods available in the game. So either nobody wants to mod Frostpunk 2, or the tools for modding are just too difficult to work with, and only seasoned modders can actually make these mods work for the public. But yeah, anyways, that concludes the good, the bad, and that. Now I'm going to the final segment, which is the 10 mark. If you remember, the 10 mark is if the game was not or was a 10 out of 10, these are the things that I would like to be put in the game in order for me to elevate my score higher. You know. So like, let's say, for example, if The Witcher 3 didn't have a story mode, right, and it only had like an exploration mode, I would say one of the 10 mark points would be add the fucking story, and then I will give it a higher score. That's an extreme example. Okay, let's start with the 10 mark. The first 10 mark is to make the game innovate and rise. No, skyrocket above the first Frostpunk game. Frostpunk 2 needed to include almost all of the small city building aspects and mechanics of the first game, and on top of that, add the current Frostpunk 2's major multiple settlement builder aspects and mechanics. At that point, the devs would be able to satisfy the fans that loved the first game, like me, and at the same time expand it to offer a brand new but familiar experience. The next 10 mark would be a better gameplay background music and a much better soundtrack during pivotal moments in the story, like Enduring a Storm. Bring back the intense violin, baby. And the last 10 mark is more campaigns. The only campaign in the game is short. I mean, even for a $45 game, the first Frostpunk released the same way. I understand. And the developers added it released with only one scenario available. And the developers added the Arcs, the Fall of Winterhome, the Last Autumn, and the Refugees later on. I expect Frostpunk 2 will receive a similar treatment in the future, I hope. And yes, they are coming up with more campaign scenarios like in the first game, because they have released, roadmaps. They have DLCs planned, hotfixes, and all that stuff planned. So once they keep going with the additional story modes, depending if they're good scenarios or not, then I would raise, the score of this game. But that is it for all my sections of this review. We talked about the good, we talked about the bad, we talked about the, and we talked about the 10 mark. So now I will give you what I think about the game. The score that I found the game to have. For all my negative points in the bad, the good, put the game up more, in my opinion. I really liked the major settlement builder once I got into the groove, but at the same time I did feel disappointed because of the critical failure that I pointed out in the bad section. But it's a really good pastime, and while it does forsake some of the favorite mechanics of the first game, it replaces them with pretty interesting other mechanics, like a deeper council, or a deeper tech tree, a deeper cornerstone mechanic. Let's say that actually not deeper, because, well, the first Frostpunk had two cornerstones, which was faith and order. But this one is, you know, you get like 6 different fucking things to focus on. And then obviously the captain's authority, which you can choose to accept or not accept. So I will give this game a 8 out of 10. It is a pretty good game. You know, when I first started, like I said in my bad and in my points, it did not feel like Frostpunk at the beginning, because so much of the things evolved in a different direction that I felt like I was playing not Frostpunk. But after getting into the groove of it, I found solace in other aspects of the game that were done pretty good. Like what I have said, tech, you know, the ideas, council, all blah 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 blah. So all that stuff really interested me, and it made me, you know, give more points than lost more points, because it was dissimilar to the first one. But I still, you know, I still bring it down some points because of that bad taste in my mouth, and because they didn't put my most favorite mechanic from Frostpunk 1 into the second one. And, you know, there's not, you know, I don't expect like 6 scenarios to be launched with the game, because that is unreasonable. But for now, at this point, at this given time, since there is only one campaign, I give it an 8 out of 10. It's a pretty damn good game. It is a very nice pastime, and I don't know if the other scenarios will come free, or they will come as like a DLC from the first game. Probably like a DLC from the first game, where they costed like $15 or $20, or if you get the ultimate complete Frostpunk 2 edition in, let's say, 2 more years, then you will get the full package bundled into one, and it will cost less. But for now, since it removes mechanics from which I loved, and the music not being that great, and then the scenarios, not having enough scenarios for a $45 game, in my opinion, is too short. You know, as a story, is too short for $45. So that's why I'm giving it less, you know, points for that. But really good game, really good pastime. If you want to play it, get ready, because this is not an easy game. You will have to be on top of your shit. You will have to be on top of your citizens and take care of them, because if you don't take care of them, they will go into a war with you, even though they piss you off from time to time. If you don't want a war in your hands, you gotta be kind to them. So, a whole lot of suck-cock that needs to happen. But, hey, if you haven't seen my gameplay, I lost it. I lost my patience. I was steering the ship into a specific way, and then the Evolvers and the Faith Keepers wanted me to go the other way, and then I said, no, fuck you, I'm gonna do this because I'm steward? Because I'm the leader? Yes? Are you okay with that? And it just so happens that they weren't okay with it. They went to war with me. They went to civil war, and I had to fight them on every goddamn chapter. There's a lot of cool stories that you can experience by playing this game, and it's something to tell your friends about. you some of the really cool fucked up scenarios that you will encounter. People complaining in your fucking right ear, and then your left ear, and then both at the same time, and they're bickering and bickering and bickering, and all you need to do, you're like, oh, I'm not going to listen to either of you. I'm going to do this thing. At some point you will lose your patience. But yeah, that's it for this review. Really good pastime. And if you want to take a crack at it, I would say for a $45 game that has a very short main story, for now it has only one scenario, for $45, not even with Utopia, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth the price now. I would wait until it goes down to, let's say, $25, because there's only one scenario. It's not enough, and you complete it pretty fast. And while you do have multiple endings, it's not, nothing really drastic changes. Like, let's say, for example, you will still get the same nodes, marginally the same nodes in the campaign, like Outpost 11, Winter Home, Baron, the nodes that you find in the Frostlands, they're marginally going to be the same and located roughly the same. And just like the first game, when you went to the Frostlands, there was no randomness. The nodes were pre-made for you in a specific location that the game generated them in, and it was not like Utopia where all the things are randomized and all that stuff. But even if you go the Evolver's route or the Faith Keeper's route, there's nothing really different that changes for a $45 game. Utopia, the shining thing in the game is that you have Utopia with seven locations, and that's pretty good. But there's only 3 goals in the Utopia mode, and once you complete those goals, you're just very stagnant very quickly. In Frostpunk 1, you also went stagnant up to a point where you said, yeah, I won because I have infinite resources generating and all that sticks. Okay, let's start another Utopia mode. And that's what you do in this game. You build another Utopia so you don't get bored. But in Utopia mode, I think in this game you arrive at the point of stagnant a whole lot quicker than in the first game, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe do more lengthier goals, maybe. But with the Utopia 7 locations and with only one scenario for $45, and the main scenario is pretty short for a $45 game. No, I don't recommend to get this game right now, but wait until there are more scenarios. You know, so you can get more gameplay diversity, more stories, more different ways to play. Because in the first Frostpunk, the scenarios had a completely different way to play. Like, you started in New London, right? From scratch, from nothing, and then it was the same as the Utopia mode, the Endless mode from the Frostpunk 1. And the only difference is that in the scenario of New London, you had a story attached to it. But you still did the same city manager as in the Endless mode. But when they added more scenarios in Frostpunk 1, like Winterhome, yeah, that city is already on the brink of destruction, and now you have to get people out of there in a dreadnought in order to save them all. And there's different gameplay mechanics that are not present anywhere else. And then you get the new arc, which is extremely highly advanced scenario where all your buildings and all your ideas are already developed, but you still need to, decide on gut-wrenching decisions. And then you got Outpost 11, which introduced a whole new mechanic, which was outpost management. Increase their relationships, decrease their relationship, ask for favors, and all that stuff. And these scenarios were very different from each other in Frostpunk 1. And I imagine in Frostpunk 2, it'll be the same thing. Once they add more scenarios, there will be more gameplay difference from them. And that's where I say, yeah, maybe $45 when a scenario or two more additional scenarios come out. Yes, $45. Yes, approved. But for now, $45 for a very short campaign and endless, a very basic endless mode 7 location scenarios. Nah, not worth it in my opinion. But I still think, even though it's not worth, the cost of the game is not worth the content that is in the game, I still think that it's a pretty good game if you already plan to have it, or if you have spare money that you don't mind spending it on and supporting the developers. So, yeah, those are my thoughts with Frostpunk 2. I very much enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, recording it. It was it was chaos, but it was fun. And when Frostpunk 2 comes out with more different scenarios, maybe I'll come back. Maybe I'll feature it on my channel again. And remember the rules. Don't be an asshole. Don't attack me. Don't attack anybody else that has a different opinion than you. Anybody can have their opinions, and that's completely fine. You can argue or discuss a specific point with me or with others, but no fighting. No calling anyone you're stupid, you're retarded, or you're a cunt, or you're a fucking asshole, or none of that. No fighting. You have been warned that you are going to be banned if you start acting like that. So, be respectful. You like being respected, right? So do other people. So, show respect, a default respect to other people, and they'll do the same to you. But if you lose that respect, man, yeah, there's no place for you in this channel. Because, look, not everybody in the world deserves respect. You know, there are some people out there that are fueled with hate and keep that mentality in their brain 24/7, and they always look for a fight, or they always try to harass people, and that is a big no-no, right? If YouTube doesn't take care of you automatically, then I will if I see it in the comments. So be respectful, and keep in mind that anybody is entitled, you know, to their opinion in a video game. You know, because we are talking about a video game, we're not talking about politics or life or whatever. So yeah, just don't attack anybody, don't attack me, don't attack others, and we'll be completely fine. Anyways, that has been it for Frostpunk 2 review. If you want to see my gameplay, the playlist is below in the description if you want to see it. Thank you everybody so much for watching this review. I hope to see you on the next one.